Revelation Lesson 1. Revelation chapter 6 to chapter 11. Background. The Apocalypse of John, meaning Revelation, is a central place in Christian eschatology, meaning study of the end times. Author Apostle John at the island of Patmos, probably around AD 81 to 96. It is important to note that all biblical writings on end time must be the same. That is, all writing in Revelation, Daniel, Ezekiel, Matthew, Luke, Thessalonians, 1 Peter, Joel, and Zechariah, Malachi, etc., they must talk about the same things. Jesus gave a summary of end times in Matthew 24 and Luke 21. It is pretty straightforward and logical, and it must be, of course, absolutely accurate. The key to understanding end times is therefore to correlate all other writings in the Bible on end times to Jesus' teaching. Let us now try to extract the key events in Jesus' end times teaching recorded in Matthew 24 and Luke 21. Matthew 24, signs of the end of age. Verse 4, Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name claiming I'm Christ, and will deceive many." Second key event, you will hear of wars and rumors of war, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen. But the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Next key event, there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Next key events, then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter and on the Sabbath. Next key event, immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its lights. The stars will fall from the sky and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Next key event, at the time the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the nations of the earth will mourn. They'll see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of sky with power and with great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and he will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Verse 33. Now learn from this lesson from fig tree. As long as its twigs get tender, its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Verse 34. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Another key event, he will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Luke chapter 21. First key event, he replied, "Watch out that you are not deceived, for many will come in my name, claiming I'm him. The time is near, do not follow him." Another key event, when you hear wars and revelation, do not be frightened. These things will happen first, but the end will not come right away. Nation will rise against other nations, and kingdom against other nations. Kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven. Another key event, but before all this, they will lay hands on you and persecute you. Verse 20, when you see Jerusalem be surrounded by armies, you know that its desolation is near. For this is a time of punishment in fulfillment of all that has been written. Another key event, there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Men will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the earth, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time, they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And these things happen to take place. Stand up, lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. He told them this parable, look at the fig tree and all the trees. When they sprout leaf, you see for yourself and know that summer is near. Be careful, or your hearts will be weighed out with dissipation, drunkenness, and the anxieties of life, and that the day will close on it unexpectedly like a trap. The key events are: first, false Christ; second, wars; third, famines; fourth, earthquakes, pestilences, fearful events, and great signs from heaven; fifth, tribulation; sixth, blackout; seven, second coming of Jesus and rapture and wrath of God. Now we have to correlate these end times events told by Jesus to those written in the book of Revelation. The key events are recorded in the scroll sealed with 7 seals. Who can open these 7 seals? None other than our Lord, the Lamb of God. Only Jesus is worthy to open the scroll, and his 7 seals are to tell the future. Therefore, in Revelation, Matthew, and Luke, we have the same Jesus telling the future, and Jesus tells the same things. When the first seal is opened, we see a white horse. His rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. A bow without arrow means fake thing. The fake Christ is symbolized false Christ. When the second seal is opened, there comes a red horse. His rider is given power to take peace from the earth, to make men slay each other. To him was given a large sword. This symbolizes war. When the third seal is opened, here comes a black horse. A quart of wheat for a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages. And do not damage the oil and the wine. Simply speaking, you work for a day, what you earn in return is just a loaf of bread. This symbolizes famines or hyperinflation. When the fourth seal is opened, there came a pure horse. Death and Hades was followed close behind him. They were given power over the fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. By the way, the wild beasts can be during wartime, the fighter, the helicopters, the tanks, or in the peaceful time, maybe there are many cars on the road, the trucks and the trains. This symbolizes death. First seal to fourth seal. Matthew and in Luke, false Christ, wars, famines, earthquakes, pestilences, great heavenly signs. And in Revelation, false Christ, wars, famines, and death. All these are the beginning of birth pains. I did some statistics. Number of new religions per year have increased to 1.92. The number of wars has become four wars per year. And number of famines to 1 famine per year. The earthquake, we're talking about the big earthquake, the Richter scale greater than 6. They have increased to more than 20 earthquakes, big earthquakes per year. Pandemics. In the last 20, 30 years, we have seen SARS, MERS, H1N1, H1N3, TB, dengue, malaria, Zika. Pain with increasing intensity and frequency, with ultimate joy with the coming of Jesus Christ. When fifth seal is opened, verse 9, which I saw under the altar the souls of those who have been slain. Verse 11, then each of them was given a white robe, and they were told to wait a little longer until the number of their fellow servants and brothers who were to be killed. This symbolizes tribulation, and tribulation represents a certain period, a little longer. When sixth seal is opened, there comes 2 great events. The first great event is in the heaven. A great earthquake, sun turned into black. The whole moon turned blood red. The stars in the sky fell to earth. Sky receded like a scroll. Second key event, verse 16. They called to the mountains, and the rocks fall on me and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. This symbolizes, firstly, black black up, and secondly, the second coming of Jesus. 144,000. Then in Revelation 7, they mention 144,000 been sealed, 12,000 each from each tribes. But from verse 9 to verse 17, verse 9, after this I looked, there before me was a great multitude that no one can count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language. Great multitude, not just 144,000, great multitude, no one can count. And it's from every nation, not just from Israel, tribes, people, and language. 144,000 are they Israelites who will be saved? It is symbolic because the tribes are wrong. We have talked about this in later lesson. Perhaps what is interesting here is there's great multitude of believers caught up to heaven. They are raptured. Let's recap the key events here. False Christ, wars, famine, death, tribulation, blackout. Immediately after tribulation and blackout and second coming of Jesus, John saw the great multitude in heaven. This symbolizes rapture. When seventh seal is open, they come within seven seal, there are 7 trumpets. This symbolizes wrath of the Lamb. Remember, all the believers have been caught up to heaven, and then 7 seal comes. 7 trumpets symbolizes wrath of the Lamb. 7 trumpets. First trumpets, a third of earth was burned out. Second trumpet, a third of the sea turned into blood. Third trumpet, a third of rivers, a third of waters turned bitter. Fourth trumpet, a third of sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them turned dark. Fifth trumpets. In fact, fifth and sixth and seventh trumpets are considered the 3 ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And that when the fifth trumpet was sound, the angel to the abyss opened the abyss, and there's a great smoke rise from it, and with it comes locusts, looks like horses prepared for battle. They will torment the survivors for 5 months. 6 trumpets, the second woe. The angels bow at the great river Euphrates was released, and to kill a third of mankind. Verse 16, the number of the mounted troops was 200 million. The mounted troops should look like horses and riders, and 1/3 of a mankind will be killed. Verse 18, by the 3 plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur, 1/3. Seventh trumpet. Notice here that 7 trumpets mentioned here, jumping from Revelation chapter 9 verse 18 to Revelation 11 14 to 19. This is the third ooh. This is the final ooh. When the angel blew the trumpet, verse 15, the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ. Verse 19, then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant, and then came flashes of lightning, rumbling, peals of thunder, an earthquake, and a great hailstorm. What would you describe them if you would see them 2,000 years ago, just like John did? For example, the Apache helicopter. Probably you describe them as a fiery locust. The tank, maybe the horses and the riders, that looks pretty similar. 200 million soldiers. At the time John wrote the book of Revelation, they were in total estimated 300 million human population. John would not have seen 200,000 people in his whole life, let alone 200 million people. 7 trumpets is the wrath of God. Revelation 8, 9, 11 lists out the 7 trumpets. And God judged the earth, the plant, sea, fish, ship, river, water, sun, moon, skies, abyss, torments, man, 200 million, God's temple. At the end, and the earthquakes with the hailstorms. God judged fallen things in total, man and nature. 1/3 is just symbolic of fallen things. Refer to Revelation chapter 12, verse 4. Otherwise, how do you measure 1/3 of sun, moon, stars, sea, river, water, man? No way. So 1/3 is just symbolic. Compare with God's creations given in Genesis, day 1 to day 6. God created day and night, sky, sea, land, plant, sun, moon, stars, bird, fish, animal, mankind, and God rests on the 7th day. God created them. And when God judged the fallen nature, God judged all of them, the man and the nature. Let's come back to Revelation 10, because we did not mention chapter 10 at all. Here, John saw a vision, the angel and the little scroll. The 7 heavens spoke, and the angels asked John to seal out what the 7 heavens have said and do not write it down. And he then asked John to, verse 9, to take it and eat it. And he tell John in verse 11 that you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, languages, and kings. You must prophesy again. Looks like the author, who is John, has received something more, but will only reveal them personally in the end times. Chapter 11, the 2 witnesses, who are also the 2 olive trees and 2 golden lampstands. The 2 witnesses, they are there during the Great Tribulation, the 3.5 years that we will describe later. Who can they be? We look at the sequence again. Chapter 6, first and sixth seals. 7, we see the great multitude and 144,000 people. Chapter 8, 7 seals. Within 7 seals, we have 7 trumpets. And we mentioned the first and fourth trumpets. And chapter 9, fifth and sixth trumpet. And then you jump to chapter 11 to talk about the 7th trumpet. Within chapter 10 and the first part of chapter 11, we describe the angels and the little scroll and the 2 witnesses. Why this continuity here? Who are the 2 witnesses? Is there a link? To summarize, the first seal, false Christ, second seal, wars, third seal, famine, fourth seal, death, fifth seal, tribulation. And this is a flow of the scriptures. The sixth seal, blackout. Seventh seal, after sixth seal, follow the second coming of Jesus and raptured. And followed by the 7th seal, which is the wrath of God. 7 seals equal to 7 key events. It is finished by chapter 11, almost. From subsequent chapters, Jesus is revealing more details in the key events, especially during tribulation. It is a 5th seal, and wrath of God, the 7th seal. Tribulation, simply speaking, is a wrath of Satan. The key is to spot the key words and to associate the happening to its respective key event. The key is to spot the key words and to associate the happening to its key event. End of lesson 1. And if you have any constructive dialogue, I welcome you to send your email to s4.ministry@gmail.com.